family viewing.
Hey guys, and welcome to yet another episode of The Grind with me, your host, Hibak Said. This week, we're going to be focusing on the construction sector, specifically real estate. How exactly has the microeconomic situation been affecting this particular sector? And of course, some levies and policies being passed. How is it making or how is it changing the way that people in the construction sector are working? But first, let's look at the market margins.
This week on Market Margins. Now it's basically a rite of passage and a show of stability, as many Kenyans usually purchase a home after a considerable degree of success in their careers. And you know what that means? A steady stream of demand that is taken advantage of by thousands running its value chains. So let's put things in perspective here. For the past 2 decades, the Kenyan real estate market has grown exponentially, as evidenced by its contribution to the country's GDP, that's the gross domestic product, which grew from 10.5% in 2000 to 12.6% in 2012 and 13.8% in 2016. Now, this growth is driven by, among many other things, infrastructural developments such as improved roads, utility connections, and upgrade of key airports. A stable GDP growth which has averaged at about 5.4% over the last 5 years against a sub-Saharan average of 4.1%. And high total returns, averaging at 25% against 12.4% in the traditional asset classes. However, Kenya's construction costs have increased significantly over the last year by almost 20%. That's a fifth of its cost in the year prior. Now, this rapid increase is also almost 4 times the usual 5% year-on-year growth. There was a 5.02% growth of these costs between 2021 and 2022. Now, this is because the cost of key construction materials like steel, paint and cement have shot up due to a local shortage, bringing a slowdown in the sector. An assessment of the market trends has shown some steel products have increased even by 40%, a kilo going from approximately 100 shillings to around 180 shillings in the last year. That's according to the Architectural Association of Kenya. Now, the price of cement has also been affected, with a bag going from around 600 shillings and up to 800 to 1,000 shillings, going up by an average of 300 shillings in the last 3 months. Now, this in turn has increased the price of acquiring or building of new homes.
And now that we've contextualized in our market margins, this week we focus on an entrepreneur who has been doing this for a couple of years, has made a name for himself in the real estate sector. How exactly has he and many others been faring on while there are changes, policies and regulation changes? Right, and as promised before, we do have an entrepreneur who's going to be telling us his journey, what exactly he has gone through. So it's good to put this into practicality, see how exactly this particular sector is faring on. Of course, he will introduce himself. What is your name? How exactly did you come into construction? How exactly did you come into real estate? How is this a business that you choose?
My name is Gidio Kenyanjugetao, and I think being in construction is by the nature of upbringing.
Right.
Come up from, been born and raised from a family that loved so much about properties.
Okay.
And I think those are the same investment that have seen us through the school. Right. And better part of our life. I think that has been our engagement for better things. We came into this industry 7 years ago. That's around 2016, 2017. And so far so good. We started by being employed. Then 2018, decided to venture into the industry by myself, also in collaboration of some other 2 more guys. So we decided to venture into it, and now I spearheaded everything. And now with 5 years now down the line under Wilston Holmes Blood, I would say has been a success. However, it's full of so many other challenges here and there, and just like any other business. But we try much as possible to stay afloat.
Right, Kinyanjui, from being employed to self-employment, and now you're even an employer. What would you say from 2017 till now? When was the peak year of your career, and why exactly was it your peak year?
I'll say when I started, I was employed first, and I was also selling properties. So I say that is where the breakthrough was at, because again, the engagement and the relationship with the client. This industry is quite sensitive because you're gauged with how you're able to relate with these clients. So definitely they'll give you referrals and also bring their friends to come and purchase what it is that you're selling. So even jump starting off now to start my very own, obviously there's a pool of people you don't begin from a point of unknown, you begin from a point of known, now to the unknown world where you want to explode and become big. Here you control 2 things, the financial part of it and the emotional part of it, so that you are able to satisfy the client. Irrespective of where they've come from, at the end of the day, they know what to expect from the company. So that has been, I would say, the height of this business in a bigger way.
You've said there's a lot of emotional implications.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to dealing with people, you need a lot of interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
What would you say for the Kenyan, market, for Kenyans who are looking towards buying real estate? What would you say you do or you change so that you can appeal to them a bit more?
I would say Kenyans are very wise people. They are very good researchers. They have information at their fingertips. I think I saw a report somewhere last year. We are best when it comes to technology.
Right.
So when technology is combined with the lifestyle they're living, so they will do a lot of research. So they will give you more pressure on what it is that they want as an outcome. So we started green, whereby we would come up with an architectural drawings, and then we buy a land, combine to that, and then we start construction cycle as they continue paying. But along the way, we realized there's so much that can be put into the design from their angle to make it a very comfortable home for themselves. So we brought in an aspect of customization, whereby amidst the design that the company have, we were able to bring or give some input as a client to modernize the house to your own liking. So the customization aspect was basically based on what does the client want. Do they want a certain particular pattern of tiles?
Right.
Do they want a certain particular color in the houses? Or do they want a certain particular modern design to be constructed their own way? So we had to incorporate all that so that at the end of the day, remember this house is Wilston's house when it is still under construction. But after now the construction cycle, now the clients own it. So for the clients to own it, you have to involve them right from the beginning of the construction cycle. So that at the end of the day, they feel like they participated and they give it the very best.
Customization, which brings innovation,
Absolutely.
Which helps, especially when you're dealing with a lot of customers. But the journey hasn't been all rosy.
Sure.
What are some of the challenges that you've faced in this particular career trajectory?
I think the biggest of all challenges came during COVID when we lost lives. We lost clients who were on board through COVID. And again, now leaving that burden to the families, now some of the family were not well up to take up the challenges. And now we ended up now refunding monies that clients had already paid to the next of kin who are in our documentation. At the same time, again, there's also the courage of inflation when it comes to economy.
Right, and you've said that this is a business which of course needs a lot of raw materials.
Absolutely.
However, there has been an inflation on the raw materials used in the construction sector. How have you been dealing with that as an entrepreneur in this sector?
I think at times you feel the pain. At times when it comes, because basically it's all boils down to the finances part of it. Like for instance, fuel is up. All these trucks must be fueled on a daily basis. Sometimes you already drew a contract 6 months ago with a client with a speculation of if everything remains constant, I'm able to construct this house with a certain amount of BQ, bill of quantity. So now coming into terms with the current state of things right now, you find you're incurring too much losses at an expense of trying to make sure that you also do not spoil your reputation. Because the reputational risk is quite higher than the inflation itself. So at times there are projects, yes, we've done at zero margin, no profits. There are also other projects that we've already incurred losses. But at the same time, it's life. You know, it is what it is. You have to make sure that you stay afloat in business, because our projection is not now, should be 10, 20, 30 years to come.
Right, and finally, you've talked about how tapping into the diaspora market is also helping players in this particular sector. However, of course, there are other things that you are doing to keep, up with the times and to keep up with some of these challenges. What are maybe some of the innovative ways that you're using to stay afloat?
I think it's cost controls. With the cost controls, now you're able to cut on too much expenditures. Like for instance, we are the people who manufacture or produce the mabatis the roofing iron sheets that we do. These are measures whereby we are in control of so many other things. Also, again, we are the same people who does our own cabro production at the same time. Transportation now was also brought into the company so that we try and use the intermediaries, the brokerage or the brokers in between the system, so that at the end of the day, we do not report too much losses at an expense of we can go get something there at a zero inflated cost in between. So that has really worked for us in a greater way, and at the same time made us stay afloat amid so many other companies not doing so well. So I think that has been a plus for us, and at the same time now tapping into the diaspora. When the Kenya currency weakens, it also means the foreign currency is also going up. So we also help them take advantage of that. The dollar is high, the euros are high, the pound is high. So we help them by interaction out there. We travel a lot to make sure that they understand what it is that we are doing. And at the same time, the feedback from the construction department on their end, so that they can stay updated each and every progress they take on their properties.
Right. Thank you so much, Kinyanjui, and that is the story on the ground, real time, what exactly is happening. We go for a very short break. We'll be right back.
Je, kuna tetemeko katika chama cha UDA kaunti ya Nairobi? Hii ni baada ya mgogoro kuzuka na kuishia kubanduliwa kwa viongozi wa UDA katika bunge la kaunti. Mtihani wa kitaifa wa KCSE mwaka 2023 waanza, huku onyo kali likitolewa kuhusu udanganyifu. Kamati ya mazungumzo ya bipartisan yaelekea Gilgil kupiga msasa ripoti ya mwisho, huku kiongozi wa NARC Kenya Martha Karua akiongoza uzinduzi wa mrengo wa Kamwene. Je, azimio kunani? Na tukisalia na Martha Karua, ungana nasi saa 3:30 usiku kwa mahojiano ya kusisimua na anayefahamika kama Iron Lady wa siasa za Kenya.
It is now easier to report and surrender. Visit www.ufaa.go.ke and get started. Beat the November 1st deadline. It is your turn to surrender and report qualifying unclaimed financial assets.
back to The Grind with me, your host, Hibak Said. In case you missed the first part of this particular episode, we are talking about the real estate sector. There's so many policy and regulation changes, and of course it has affected the construction sector, but how exactly are people faring on? We already had the market margins, we had our entrepreneur of the week, and now we look into the business capital.
In business capital this week, where more than 60% of Kenyans prefer investment in real estate, the rising cost has not deterred buyers much. However, it has reduced the sizing of houses they would prefer and the finishings as well. So what must you consider when going into real estate, either as a buyer, a seller, or a constructor? 1. The average return on real estate investments in Kenya. Now, the average return on real estate investment in the country varies depending on various factors such as the location, the type of property, market trends, and demand. However, in general, real estate investment in Kenya offers attractive returns with a potential return on investment ranging from around 8% to 30%. Residential properties such as apartments, townhouses, and standalone houses in prime locations such as Westlands, Kilimani, Kileleshwa, Karen, Riverside Drive, Lavington, Kitisuru, and Nyari offer higher returns due to the high demand for housing. The return on investment for such properties ranges from 8% to 15%. On the other hand, commercial properties such as office spaces, retail spaces, and warehouses offer lower returns, ranging from 8% to 10%. 2. Real estate investment tips in Kenya. If you're planning to invest in real estate in Kenya, here are some tips to help you get started. 1. Conduct thorough research on the market trends, the demands and supply in the location you intend to invest in. 2. Consider working with a reputable real estate developer or agent to help you identify investment opportunities. 3. Have a clear understanding of your investment goals and risk tolerance. 4. Choose the type of property that suits your investment goals and your budget. 5. Have a clear exit strategy in case you need to liquidate your investment. Now, of course, there are some challenges that are facing the real estate investment in Kenya. Despite the attractive returns, real estate investment in Kenya comes with its fair share of challenges, including the high land prices in prime locations, the lack of access to financing for some investors, the slow processing of building permits and approvals, a lack of proper infrastructure in some locations, and inconsistent land registration systems. Now, of course, there are really good investment options in Kenya. These investment options include residential properties such as apartments, townhouses, and standalone houses in prime locations. Commercial properties, of course, including office spaces, retail spaces, and warehouses. Real estate investment trusts, that is, publicly traded companies that own and manage income-generating real estate properties. Or you can just buy land for future development. Now, real estate investment groups in Kenya are plentiful, and they can help you find the best investment according to whatever money that you have. Is real estate a good investment in Kenya? Well, real estate is a good investment due to the high demand for housing and other real estate properties. With a growing middle class and urbanization, the demand for housing and commercial spaces is expected to rise, making real estate investment a profitable venture. So how much do you need to invest in real estate in the country? It depends on the type of property and location. Generally, residential properties in prime locations in Nairobi can cost between 4 million shillings and 100 million shillings, while commercial properties such as office spaces and warehouses can cost between 10 million shillings and 100 million shillings. So in conclusion, is it worth it? Yes. Real estate investment in Kenya offers attractive returns, but it is not without its challenges.
And from the business capital, I'm sure there are a couple of tips that you're going to be taking up in case you're looking at this venture, not only maybe as your main form of employment or even as a side hustle. Today we're having a very special episode. Our entrepreneur is going to be our expert because he's had a very lustrous career and he knows enough about it to give you a tip or to Kinyanjui.
Yes.
Welcome back. This is The Grind.
Thank you.
First things first, what is the state of the construction sector and by extension, real estate?
Very tough, very, very tough. I think we've for the last 2 years, we've experienced the upsurge of almost 100% of whatever consumption of the materials that we use.
Right.
To mention a few, steel is up. For the first time in history in the last 3 years, cement has been up. Right now, a bag is trading at around 690, 720. So that would tell you how massive it is implicating on our sector. More largely when it comes to those sites that were under construction. Right now, it's very tough for you to even imagine you can make a coin out of it.
And not only looking at that, we're seeing that there are regulations and policies that have been shifted here and there. There's a new government, within the 2 years, right after COVID-19. How are you faring on given these policies and regulations?
I would say, most people previously were taking shoulder on the exportations and importations as well. So right now importation is almost impossible because of the levies that have been implicated on that. So you're forced to consume what is currently available locally. Again, coming to local market, you can imagine everything is up already. So prices you will get things few months ago are not prices you will get things right now. So it will tell you if you had already charged for a service before. Right now, completing that task would mean you complete, build up your reputation in the market or company portfolio and stick to the business without expectation of too much. And at the same time, looking into also now the levies that have been imposed, both by the local government, the county government, are bringing up regulations. Sometimes it's more of imaginable things to operate with, and also the national government at the same time. So it's becoming very tough.
When it comes to taxation and levies, of course, there are cushions that they put for local producers that are not necessarily working in favor for the real estate sector. I'm seeing that they're planning to move the export levy from 10% to around 20%, 25% for clinker and the making of cement. What exactly does this mean for real estate people?
I would say right now we have to come into terms whereby we are on deficit when it comes to housing in Kenya. That is why you find every government that comes in, their first agenda is housing. But again, what are the motivation factors for the citizens to also maximize on that opportunity? It's more scaring to imagine that you can venture into that industry because you hear it is very lucrative, or maybe from the previous participants, you're able to make a projective way of approaching the business. You cannot, despite the private sector, to also play a role in this, which we've done so for the last couple of years. So maximizing both now the government and the private sector contribution on that then becomes so tough to also sell in the same business. Government will always cushion itself when it comes to the housing agenda by maybe getting funds from this government, from this organization. What about the private sector? It can only be cushioned by the national government. So it makes it very much impossible to sustain the business up to the end. And at the same time, because at the end of the day, you have to pay levies and pay taxation of whatever it is that you're consuming. Everybody now becomes a beggar to the government to try at least minimize or maybe give some bit of exemptions when it comes to people who are wired towards helping the same government achieve a certain task among their policies.
So steel is up.
Steel is up.
Clinker is up because cement is up. Yeah. Of course, there are many other raw materials and the price is just going up because of a lot of macroeconomic factors, the global recession, so on and so forth. However, you are saying that the public sector might be benefiting, the private sector might be going to a dip. What are some of the saving graces for people who are looking to go into this sector? Maybe I am a person who wants to go into construction, I want to go into real estate. What would be a saving grace?
I would say, okay, there's no much to really hope for. until things maybe stabilize, maybe the government stabilize on the policy preparation part of it, so that they're able to sustain everybody into the business again. But at the same time, I think it's being true to yourself and true to the intention as to why you came into the business. But again, you know, the need of Kenyans to own home is still constant. It's not changing. What we are left to is you charge us the current market rate without any exemption or maybe discounts per se, so that you can sustain and maybe be a true statesman to make sure that everything goes as you had purposed it to.
And by the nature of the government, policies and regulations are always fluctuating, there are always changes. Do you, one, feel like, you know, stakeholder players are already involved or are being involved in this particular process? And two, maybe, what are some of the recommendations you would give to the government when it comes to this front?
I would say yes, in the recent past, you know, it has been an industry that has been very unorganized. In the recent past, we've come up with associations whereby we ourselves can also have a voice when it comes to policy making. But again, it's work in progress. Before you also involved on that particular process of the way, we also have to first regulate ourselves, and at the same time we also have commented on several proposals that has been even into the national parliament at the same time, to make sure that we are part and parcel of the decision making process, so that we also can give them feedback from the grassroots point of view. We're also looking positively to make sure that we also collaborate with the government to come up with such more policies that will be also beneficial to the common mwananchi, the Wajiko, who we all know is a commoner. So all these at the same time, and having association, an organized way of us giving feedback and giving input to the policies will also make sure that we have the very best when it comes to regulation.
And finally, Kinyanjui, as we wrap up this, you know, conversation, very scintillating conversation, by the way, where is the future of real estate?
I think it's very bright. We've seen globally, real estate is not something that you can put a bright eye on it. Even the local government have already indicated that. That is why you're seeing there are new cities, Konza City. There are also some other creative way they are looking into real estate to make sure they stay afloat. And again, the country develop at the same time. I would say we are still on the development curve as a nation, and if you go to modern world, we call them first world countries, you'll find the government majored more on the housing first to sort everybody else, and now things now took shape in Kenya. That is where we are headed to. So there's still a lot of positivity in the game, and also in the industry as well, to make sure that everybody is housed at the same time. And again, now if you sort that, the other things will just sort themselves out.
And hopefully the trajectory remains as it is. Those are the sentiments of our expert of the week. And of course, we have had a very scintillating conversation, not only of the construction sector, but of real estate in general. What exactly are the ins